All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to On the Record, a punk music podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Ben Brennan, alongside Alex Newman. What's up, Alex?
Not much. Just enjoying some coffee and cigarettes, ready to talk about some records.
You smoking again?
No, just, Lagwagon reference. That's all.
All right, so On the Record is a fan podcast where we discuss the Fat Records catalog, album by album, side by side, chronologically-ish. We have no true music expertise. We're just some friends shooting the shit about albums we loved growing up. Alex, I'm looking forward to talking to you about Lagwagon's Trashed. Can you remind me why we decided on such a daunting quest?
We are trying to reach a deeper understanding of what draws people to outsider art. I'm kidding. It's just fun to mosh and skate to it. So let's get into it.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, before we start, I have a question for you.
Yeah?
Do you have any weird food habits? Is there anything that you like? Like, you don't have to. You don't, if it's too fucked up, you don't have to share it. But like,
give me an example, I guess.
Okay. So the other night, I was watching a video where they were making all of like Andy Warhol's favorite foods, and Andy Warhol.
Gross.
Yeah,
I've watched that video before. They're fucking disgusting.
absolutely. Oh my god! Like,
he just eats pudding, right? Like just garbage.
I could not believe, like, that man would just eat high octane shit all the time. This motherfucker is basically subsisted on speed, candy, and soup. It's fucked up. Just like, he was all about sugar. Like, but like the grossest thing was the thing he called quote unquote cake, which was white bread with like a chocolate bar in the middle of it.
Oh yeah. Oh god.
That's fucked up. Like, dude, eat a vegetable.
God, yeah. I mean, lately I've been eating my chicken sandwiches just with Dijon on it. I don't know how weird that is, but
That's not weird. That's good stuff. I'm behind that. Yeah, because like it just made me think. I was like, do I have any fucked up like habits when it comes to food? And I don't know that I really do. I can't think of anything. But I just found it fascinating that somebody could live like that for forever. And then, you look at Andy Warhol towards the end of his life and you're just like, dude, you look haggard. And it might be because all you did was eat sugar for forever.
yeah. Huh. All right. So tell us about Trashed, Alex.
All right, let's get into the liner notes. Lagwagon's Trashed was released on January 4th, 1994. The band lineup was Joey Cape on vocals, Chris Flippin on guitar, Sean Dewey on guitar, Jesse Buglione on bass, and Derek Plord on drums. It was recorded, as always, at West Beach Recorders in Hollywood, California, engineered by Don Cameron and Joe Pecorillo, and produced by Lagwagon and Fat Mike. Only note I really have, I really like the back of the record, because it's their bus, the Lagwagon, and it has all the tracks painted on it on the back of it. I thought that was pretty cool. And it's also the first time, it's the debut of Lagwagon's long running logo, which I always liked. Even though so many bands kind of did the whole let's put our name in a circle thing back in the 90s, but I think Lagwagon did it best. It's got like a sort of like a nice design to it.
I agree. Yeah, I've always enjoyed the Lagwagon logo. All right, well, let's start talking about side one then. So, I feel like we probably should go mostly in order here. So
Yeah.
Record kicks off with the song Island of Shame. I remember when I first heard this album, this being one of the tracks that stood out to me at the time. It's particularly for it being like the mid 90s still, like the fact that they had written a song about, the kind of shaming and isolation of people with AIDS and gay people with AIDS at that time, I think is pretty cool and interesting just because, I feel like the scene that they were part of was still, to certain degrees, pretty misogynistic and homophobic at the time. So I find that pretty cool. I also knew somebody who kind of went through this as well. My aunt's friend from high school was gay and eventually got AIDS and was basically like disowned by his family. And my grandma kind of like took him in and kind of like helped protect him from like kind of
Wow.
the bullying and stuff. And I actually met him shortly before he died.
Oh my God.
Not long after the song was written, a few years.
Wow.
Yeah, so I just kind of he was I guess going. He knew he was about to die, so he was going through and like meeting people who had helped him along the way. I think something like that, and had met my grandma. So
Wow.
yeah, it's a very good song though.
It is. Yeah, it's a great opening track. This is notably the only single from the record, and they did a video for it. I think it was probably Lagwagon's first video, which is cool. The video's fine, but the song is great. I think this is just like a great opener. Um, and it's like right off the bat, I feel like you get a sense that they've leveled up. Like they're just better in general. The songwriting is better on Trashed overall. It's just so much better than Duh in a lot of respects, and this sets that tone right away.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. This sounds a lot like a classic Lagwagon song.
Yeah. And then like right after Island of Shame, I do it does feel like it's with Lazy they do a like a throwback to Duh. Lazy feels more like a track that belongs on Duh.
Well, I mean, it has that soundbite that kicks it off too.
I know.
I love when bands do that. So like,
I have that written down as well here.
I wrote down like when Bad Religion, I think on Stranger Than Fiction talks about. I tried to tell you about No Control. All that fucking shit in that song.
Yeah.
I also think "Look at My Cat, Why Can't I Live Like That" is just such a fucking great, stupid lyric.
I know. I have also got that written down as well because that lyric always makes me smile. It's I like the song though. Like the lyric might be goofy, but like I think the topic of it's sort of about the powerful draw of reveling in your own sadness when things aren't going your way and you kind of giving into apathy. And I feel that, especially this past year during the pandemic. There's a lot of that, like just general apathy, because there's not really a whole lot we could do.
Yeah.
But it's a fun song. I remember I couldn't. I don't know if I didn't like look this up to find a source, but I do remember in an interview years ago reading that Joey talked about this song specifically, and when they were in the studio making it, and you got Fat Mike doing a guest appearance here, and I just remember Joey talking about how when they were in the studio, he was like, all about he didn't want to hear Mike as much. He was like no, I want to hear me. So I wonder what the original version of the song was like. If maybe Mike had a bigger part in it.
Yeah.
But it's a fun guest appearance. You don't get that a whole lot in a lot of the Fat Wreck stuff. Like I don't recall hearing a lot of guest vocals from other Fat bands. Like it wasn't like a super common thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
But Ben, let's talk about the best song on this record.
Absolutely. I have complicated feelings on this song too, but it's definitely the best song on the record.
Complicated in what way?
Kind of think that I think the biggest overarching one is I think Joey Cape's wrong. That corporate rock on average does indeed fucking suck. And that bands operating as purely for-profit enterprises are bound to make a bunch of fucking stinkers. But even more than that, he does to me a fucking like cardinal sin for any sort of like musician performer in general, with the one line in this where he says, "Could you ever right what you call wrong?" Which is kind of the whole, "Ooh, you're just a critic. You can't do this yourself," like type deflection of shit. So there are a lot of aspects to this song that just like when I listen to, it, I'm like, this is fucking stupid, but it's a great fucking song. Like like it kind of reminds me of some of the more like pop oriented Jawbreaker songs at times, like not unlike a Boxcar or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
I get where you're coming from on the lyrics. I just wonder if, in retrospect, maybe, I don't know, I'd like to know sort of like, have like a better idea of what the environment was like around this time. Because, 1994, Spin Magazine famously called it the year the punk broke. And I wonder if maybe he was just reacting to all the backlash that people were getting from their scenes.
mhm.
'Cause, punk went through some doldrums. Like, in the mid 80s, it just kind of died. And then it comes back with like Bad Religion, and then the Gilman scene in San Francisco with like Operation Ivy and stuff. Like it sort of comes, the scene starts to sort of rebuild itself and change. And you're right. I mean, corporate rock, yeah, it fucking sucks. But I think also around this time, I have to wonder, like, was rock music really that? It wasn't really that mainstream at the time. Like Nirvana came in and proved that you could have do this type of music and be popular and actually make a living. And in that respect, I understand where he's coming from. It's like that line about people being mad that bands can actually pay their bills and have like a place to live and stuff like that, based just on playing music. It Around this time, maybe that wasn't so viable until suddenly it was, until Nirvana came in and changed all that. I mean, obviously there's always going to be, you can always point to like big rock bands and stuff, but I don't know. I would actually, I think it'd be interesting to talk to Joey about how things were at that time and why he wrote it this way. But like, I agree and I disagree in some ways. I don't know if it's completely black and white.
That's why I said it was complicated. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, of course.
So yeah, no, I don't know if there's a ton more we can say about the song. Just that it's probably one of their best songs. Period.
It's so catchy. Like
It's
it's a
super
classic.
catchy. Yeah, it's probably the song that hooked me on Lagwagon. More than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one was on the second Fat Music comp. And I remember that's where I first heard it, and I was like, "Oh shit, this is a fucking great song."
Yeah.
I think that was, that was the reason that I bought Trashed in the first place, was just for that song. 'Cause I wanted to hear the rest of the tracks. Um, but I just think the entire like the environment of like the punk scene in '94 was it had to have been, I guess, a little surreal for these guys to come from, like, they grew up going, playing in these bands and going to these shows and stuff like that, and the scene didn't really change that much for a little while, and then all of a sudden, all at once, almost, you start seeing your peers like blow up in a way that they never could have expected. So I feel like the song was probably written as like a knee-jerk reaction to that, and sort of like the backlash from the scene.
Mhm.
We'll talk more about that later on when we get into
Yeah.
Rival Records.
Yeah. So then the next song on this record is Stoke and the Neighbors. It definitely sounds a lot like Duh to me. It is an interesting song topic. Uh,
To me, this is the sequel to Beer Goggles.
it
Or
is.
it's the sequel, or it's sort of like Beer Goggles Redux.
It really is. It's not the best song, but it's kind of
It's not as
fun.
good as Beer Goggles.
It's not as good as Beer Goggles. Yeah, yeah.
I
I
like
did not. Good.
I like the disclaimer at the end. Um, it's it's a silly song about people are always like getting up to shit that they shouldn't do, especially when they're younger. And again, these guys, this they were in Santa Barbara, Goleta. It's not like it's not like a big city or whatever. And I'm not like excusing the fact that they could do this type of shit, but like it's a funny song, and I just really like this line. Dave's a midnight landscaper and working overtime.
I love that too.
It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he hits a mailbox while he's drunk, and then he just like gets the fuck out of there. I don't know. Like, of course, I do not condone drinking and driving in any way whatsoever. But just like the disclaimer says, but it makes for a funny song.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. So Stoke and the Neighbors is good. What do you feel about the next three songs?
I think that these are good tracks. I don't love them necessarily, but I do think that I still think these songs are better than a lot of what we heard on Duh. Um, I think they're at least experimenting and playing around with different things.
Mhm.
Because like on Give It Back, I really like that wah wah pedal effect that they use. It's really
Mhm.
cool. Um, the lyrics, they're not bad by any means. They're it just feels like you've heard songs like this before. It's about cycles of violence and
Mhm.
how people pass on violence that have been done to them, and how you should want to end the cycle, which is sort of what the song's about. Um, but it's a good song. I like it. How
Yeah,
did you feel about it?
I thought that song in particular. I mean, the lyrics aren't terrible. It felt like something I would say was fat that should be trimmed. For Give It
Hmm.
Back. And then I thought like Rust and Going South both have like some flashes of greatness on them. But just they're not quite as good as the first three songs on this record for sure.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with that. Um, yeah, I still, but ultimately, side one is much stronger than side two. Um, and I do like Rust. Again, sort of that lead in, that intro, is cool. Um, and Going South, we've talked about this many times, like not on the podcast, but like tour songs, whatever, it's very specific. It's if you're in a band, you get it. Like you hear one song about going on tour, you kind of heard them all, and it's not like my favorite topic at
I
all.
fucking hate tour songs so much.
I know,
I
but at least this one has a little bit of humor.
So speaking of a band that we're going to talk about a little bit later, I was so pissed when I got the CD version of Bivouac by Jawbreaker and found out it had that stupid fucking tour song on it, literally called fucking tour song. Hated
Yeah,
that song so much.
yeah.
'Cause
I mean, it's definitely not. It's one of the worst Jawbreaker songs.
that record is so perfect too, and then they had to add that extra stupid fucking song to the CD version.
Oh yeah, it should have been left off. I don't even know why it's on there. But yeah, I mean, Going South, it's got like a fun tone to it. It's fine. I got no problems with it really. Uh, but I do, I like the little bit at the end where they're just like, you know, acting like they're driving and arguing and stuff. At least it feels real. They probably had that happen a lot of times. Uh,
Yeah.
just the stress of like trying to get to the next show. Whatever, you know, it's a fine song. I don't. This one, it like this for me. This is one that you probably could have left it off.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that as well.
I think that does it for side one.
Yeah. So, we're gonna before we flip it over to side two, we're gonna take a break to do some shout outs. So Alex, what are you gonna shout out first?
I want to give a shout out to a documentary that you can find on YouTube called 1994, and this covers this like the scenes lead up to breaking into the mainstream, and this is the first record that we're talking about in 1994, and I just think that this is the big year for punk music for so many reasons. And if you watch this documentary, you can really see why. It's like it had all been leading up to this moment, really. But I think the documentary, it's really fun. Did you watch it, Ben?
I have not been able to watch it yet.
Okay, it's worth watching. A lot of really fun interviews. It's just cool. They interview like a lot of big name people. You know, they talk to Greg Graffin, Brett Gurewitz. They talk to Joey Cape. Not much, but talk to Tony Sly. There's a lot of Fat Mike, which is funny. And I think my favorite appearances are Lars and Tim from Rancid. Individually, they're both just really fun to watch them interview. So yeah, definitely worth watching. There probably is a version of this that's better if you buy it, but like, because there's like a disclaimer on the video that it's not like, it's sort of like the free version in a way, and like the sound, the irony of the whole thing is that the sound is totally fucked. Like some of the interviews are really quiet, some of them are much louder, but it's definitely worth watching. There's a lot of sort of like entertaining bits, and it gives you sort of like a greater understanding of how they like punk got to this point where it could really become like a mainstream thing that actually allows these bands to go from having to tour constantly just in order to like make a little bit of money to like actually being able to quit their jobs. So that was cool.
Yeah.
What do you got to shout out, Ben?
So I kind of showed up a little late to recording today because I was caught up watching The Pervert's Guide to Cinema on the streaming service known as Canopy. So Canopy is basically the streaming service for your public library. So you can get a lot of pretty cool fucking shit on there. Maybe not action blockbusters, but interesting videos. Pervert's Guide to Cinema is from this Slovenian Yugoslav. I don't fucking know. I'm gonna fuck that up. Philosopher Slavoj Zizek. And Zizek is just this wonderful looking troll, and he's constantly, sniffling all the time, and he double fists hot dogs, and so what's not to love? All right.
I mean, I'm definitely gonna check it out. It sounds great. But Ben, I got a game that I want to play with you.
Okay.
So I haven't briefed you on this at all, just because I want to make sure you're going into this completely fresh.
Okay.
So I came up with a game, and I call it Smoke or Fire, and I tried to make it somehow, like the title somehow related to fat. And that's the best I could do.
I saw that band way too many times.
Yeah. Too many times in too short a period of time. They like to tour through the Midwest. But the reason it's called that is I'm gonna give you 5 records that were released in 1994 that went platinum.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to put them in order based on how fast it took them to go from gold to platinum. And that's why I called it Smoke or Fire, because it's like some of them went from gold to platinum really fast, and some of them did not. So I gave you your list, and I have the order in which it happened. But I want you to put it from who took the longest to who took the shortest. So the records are 9 Inch Nails, The Downward Spiral, Offspring, Smash, Oasis, Definitely Maybe, Green Day, Dookie, and Weezer, Blue Album. So how long did it take? And you can ask questions. I have all the data here. I pulled all this stuff from the Recording Industry Association of America.
So how long after they hit gold did they get to, like, the longest time frame for that?
Yeah. So they hit gold, and then how long did it take for that to go platinum? Because it's like, the reason I called it Smoke or Fire, because it's like some of it was more like a slow burn. Some records really caught fire and like went real quick from gold to platinum. And I've got all the dates too, to like after you've sort of given your answers, I'll give you all like the other details. It's a little surprising.
I've got my best guess, I think, already narrowed down. So I think the longest was probably Offspring, Smash, then Weezer, Blue Album, then 9 Inch Nails, Downward Spiral, Green Day, Dookie, and I think the fastest was probably Definitely Maybe, since they're from the UK and we're fucking massive there, and also got big here.
Okay. So, well, something to note here, at least in the case of Oasis, is that these are all pulled from the American stats.
Sorry. Oh, U.S. sales.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would probably put them at number 3 then, if it's U.S. sales.
Okay. So, real quick, list out just the bands, the order.
Offspring, 9 Inch Nails, Offspring, Weezer, Oasis, 9 Inch Nails, Green Day.
Okay. So, the actual order is, the band that took the longest to go from gold to platinum was Oasis.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So,
well, they don't. Their big hit song in the U.S. isn't on this record too, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, their next record was the one. That was the one that, took them from being like a, decently known band to like, holy crap, everybody knows who these guys are. So it took 6 years and 2 months and 6 years, 2 months and 9 days.
Wow.
For Definitely Maybe to go from gold to platinum. Yeah. Any guesses? So the next one is 9 Inch Nails. Any guesses as to how long it took to go from gold to platinum?
I'd say close to 6 years.
5 months, 27 days.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Wait, 6 years, 5 months, 27 days, or just 5 months, 27?
Just 5 months.
That's the difference between those two? Fuck.
Yeah, Definitely Maybe it was like it was much slower to go from gold to platinum in America. The stats are just completely
I think that's my favorite record on the list too.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, 100%.
I like it. That's a good one. I think my problem with Definitely Maybe is that the songs are a little long. It kind of wears out its welcome a little bit for me. The next on the list was Green Day's Dookie. Any guess as to how long it took it to go from gold to platinum?
2 months?
Right on. 2 months and 3 days.
Okay.
And then there's Weezer. Any guesses as to how long it took the Blue Album to go from gold to platinum?
A month tops, probably, because probably the second that dumb Buddy Holly song came out, everybody bought it.
See, for me, this is probably my favorite record on this list. And it was 1 month and 12 days.
Okay.
And then Offspring Smash was the fastest. Any guesses?
Fuck. Did it just take forever to get to gold?
It didn't even take that long to get gold. It was released on April 8th, 1994, and it went gold on August 8th. Which
And
is pretty
then,
quick.
yeah, it's
And
fairly quick. And then I
and
would
then
guess
how long?
2 weeks.
They certified it as platinum on the same day.
Damn.
Yeah.
What happened? I know I've heard people talk about how crazy, how like insane, like that's the highest selling like Epitaph record, right?
It is the highest selling independent record of all time. 6 million copies.
What movie was a song from that in?
I don't know. I don't know that it was. I think it just blew up in a like I don't know, man. I just Come Out and
Like
Play was the song. That was
I remember that song being huge. I
it was
just like at the
so
same
big.
time, oh man,
Yeah.
all those other records are so much better. See, Joey Cape, you fucking idiot. Sorry.
But like, Offspring wasn't like trying to go corporate, is it? They're on Epitaph, man.
Just saying, people are fucking stupid. They like Coldplay and voted for the Nazis.
Yeah, Smash isn't bad. It's good tracks on it. I like it. I like all these records. I think they're all good. But I mean, Smash is definitely not one of my like absolute favorites. Uh, doesn't even wouldn't even crack my top 20 of 1994. But it's got some good stuff on there. I don't know. I think it was just so different as sort of my takeaway from it. In that documentary 1994, they talked to Breck Hurwitz about the moment when he sort of had an idea of what was about to happen. And he said that he had gotten the cassette with the demos on it, or like maybe it was like nearly complete. And I think he said he was listening to either Self-Esteem or Come Out and Play. And he said that he just like was on his way home and he started listening to it. And he said that I think it was Self-Esteem. He said that he listened to it and then he just kept rewinding it. And he was just like driving, he was like doing circles around his neighborhood as he was just like rewinding the song and listening to it again and again and again. And he said he finally like pulled into his driveway and went inside. And he said, he's like, this might sound kind of vulgar, but I went in and I said to my wife, I think we're about to be rich. And fuck, he was right. God damn. I mean, 6 million copies on an independent label. And like at that time, there was like the joke was that for a punk record, there's a gold record, which is 500,000. And then the joke was that a punk gold was 50,000. And to go from like, 10, 20,000 as being like a success to fucking 6 million or to hit like 1 million so quickly, it's crazy. It must have just been like a complete shock to the system in so many ways.
All right. You want to flip it over to side 2 now?
Sounds good, man. So, I think we can just start at the top here. I said it already. I don't think the side is as good as the first half of this record.
It's basically I'll say it, a one song side.
Really? One song. Wow.
For me at least. It's all about one song in side 2.
Okay. Which song was the standout for you?
Coffee and Cigarettes, 100%.
Absolutely. It's the best song on this side. This is a classic Lagwagon song. It's so good.
I remember loving it like when I first heard this record, and it's still fucking great. Like I love the guitar riff. I really like that it sounds kind of like this meeting point between like what they were doing on Duh and what they were gonna do later, right? Like some of the stuff they're doing like with the guitars sounds more like what they were doing on Duh, but like it's just a lot more fucking catchy than anything they ever did on Duh.
Yeah. it does feel like the true middle ground between, I guess it bridges the gap between what they did on Duh and what they'll do later on Hoss. Yeah, it's so good. And I really like the lyrics on this one too, because it's Joey's writing about how he's struggling to say something with his music, and he's trying to find the right words and connect without sounding like rehash or generic. And like I know that feeling when you're writing something and like you're just trying to get across what you're trying to say, and you're maybe just not able to quite articulate it. So I really like that about this song. I think this is absolutely one of the best tracks on this album.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's quite a few songs on this record that I will definitely be listening to a lot more going forward.
Yeah,
you
definitely.
You want to talk about Discords?
Yeah, I like Discords. We talked about this briefly about what this song could actually be about. And we don't know. This is all speculation. We have no idea. But I found your insight about how it might possibly be about, maybe not about Fat Mike, but maybe just about
Fat
somebody
Records?
at Fat. Because it's just about disagreeing with somebody. And I like the sort of the play on like relating to your disagreement to like music somehow, the whole like Discords thing. And then I didn't even think about the connection to like him like referencing the actual label, but like honestly, it's one of those things that the second you said it, I was like, oh, duh.
So like looking through here, one of the things you were talking about earlier was Joey talking about how on Lazy he wanted to hear more of himself and less of Fat Mike. And like some of these lyrics are like, you cut me off, I cut you down.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be serrated words, probably not gerated.
Yeah, probably. Man, internet lyrics, man.
So like, and then towards the end, like, we've been through thick and thin. I consider you a friend, though it's hard for me to show. Every time you hear the song, you'll know it's not just the business. We know much more exists. Let's end bad notes. And the Discords will tune our attitude and realize personal reward.
Right.
One of the cool things about this, though, is like we're already up to like a couple bands on the label kind of biting the hand that feeds already.
But the funny thing is about all of this is that anything like the other day you sent over that interview that Consequence of Sound did years ago about like it was Fat celebrating 25 years, and they interviewed a whole bunch of people, and they just all were just glowing all the things that they had to say about Fat, and like it just what a difference time makes, just like getting further away from it. It's like during this time period, maybe there were just some tensions about how things were being done, but like ultimately these bands loved being on this label, and you can see that because barely any bands ever left this label. It's like a lot of like bands just they either stopped making music altogether and broke up, or they just kept releasing records on Fat. So that I think there's something to it, I think that Mike and Aaron did a fucking phenomenal job of giving the bands what they needed and understanding that. And I thought that's really cool. So it is interesting to look at this song and sort of think like, oh, maybe at this exact moment they were having a little bit of a tiff.
Well, you could imagine it's still early. They've put out a decent chunk of records and may not be seeing any like actual like returns on them yet.
Yeah.
And so I can always see it being like truly like business related stuff where like it's like, finances are strapped. And that leads to hot or tense situations.
Right. Plus, again, we go back to seeing the band. So it's like suddenly like you're at the beginning of seeing bands get popular enough that they are able to make a living off of their records. And I think after Trashed was released, that was when Lagwagon could focus on just being a band, and they could quit their jobs and just go on tour. And yes, they're on tour for, the vast majority of the year, probably 80% of the year they're touring. But hey, that's what you're here to do. And you can see that momentum that they get, and you can always see it like when a band has like true momentum, because you'll see how many records they released in a short period of time, because Lagwagon releases Hoss in 95, and then they do Double Platinum in 97, and then Let's Talk About Feelings in 98. And that's like, not very spaced out. Like it was just like they were just in the zone and they were doing well.
That's close to like Smiths or Beatles level of prolificness.
Yeah,
prolificness.
I mean, it's hard to maintain, as any artist can tell you. It's hard to keep that up for a long period of time. But yeah, I think that it's totally possible that like early on you're still kind of like trying to get this train rolling, and it takes a little bit of time for things to pick up steam. So it's totally possible that this song is about some tensions early on.
Yeah. So I know we're gonna get to your favorite part of this record just now. How'd you feel about the Van Morrison cover?
Fine. We didn't need it. Yeah, I don't even know why. It just doesn't need to be here again.
Yeah.
We've been through this. This almost, it's starting to feel like I have to wonder, like, is this like the Fat Mike special where he like convinces bands that they need to do like a weird cover, but like the punk version? We're gonna get so many more of these, like records that have like your random cover. That
what have we had? We've had so many so far, and like only one of them was like a punk band covering a punk band, with the Rancid cover, right? But then like Duh had the CCR cover. How to Clean Everything had the Cheap Trick cover, and now this has a Van Morrison cover. So yeah,
and there will be more. I've already looked ahead. There will be more.
Well, there's also another one on this fucking record too.
I know, but like that one, it's the secret track. So like that we can just talk about that now, because like this for me, this is the one that like just if you just got rid of it and it never existed, I would not care. Like just obliterate it from history. It's silly, stupid, and they were smart to put it at the very fucking end. Like it's like they learned their lesson, sort of. Like they still did the Van Morrison cover, but like it's a competent cover. It's fine. But like Back One Out, which is a parody song of Mama Said Knock You Out by LL Cool J, it's stupid.
Isn't that on their Live in a Dive record too?
Yeah, I think they're just fucking around though. They clearly think it's just like funny.
It's about poop, right?
I did not even think about it, because I didn't even bother to think about it for longer than like I listened to it maybe twice before we recorded this, and I was like, okay, let's move on. And that's kind of funny if you think about it that way. I did not give this one any thought. Because it's easy to just skip right past it.
Yeah. All I wrote about it was, nah, I'm good.
Yeah. I feel the same. But the other three songs, I think Whipping Boy is actually a pretty good song. And it does feel more along the lines of what they'll do with Hoss.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's a decent song. It's catchy, it's fun. I like it. But,
I thought all three of these were fine. They're okay.
Yeah, the last two are the ones that they're fine. In terms of the song themselves, right? Like, I think No One is maybe the most forgettable track on this entire record. It just feels like it lacks something that almost all the other songs have. Almost all the other songs have some sort of like interesting guitar lead or sort of like fun little riff or something like that. And this one's just really straightforward. It's fine. It just doesn't do a whole lot for me. And then, Whipping Boy, like, while it's a catchy song, it's just like, it's pretty familiar territory in terms of the lyrics. It's like, oh, man is sad, wants girlfriend back, is bothering her. Fine. But it's real catchy. And then Bye for Now, not a great song. But this is the song that sort of like the lyrics made me sort of like just, I guess, like think a little bit about, not to get like super deep or whatever, but like it's just about, the fear of friends growing out of their current phase of life and you're losing touch with them. It's a fact of life, but it put that sort of on my mind a little bit, and how like living in a different city away from the friends that you grew up with and everything like that. Eventually things start to sort of, you talk to them less and less because your life becomes more focused on where you live now. And it's just not always so easy to constantly be in contact, and you don't have any of those shared experiences, there's not enough new shared experiences for you to be in constant contact with people.
Yeah.
And I liked that about this song. I think it was a good lyrical topic. And I don't know, like, how do you feel about that? Because you've lived in more places than I have. Just like about like staying in touch with people, and how like the longer you're in a place, the more your life becomes so much more focused on that spot and not the other one that you came from.
I mean, I think it's in general good, but that's partly just because I've usually been able to like pick back up with people once I'm in the same place as them. So it's never, it's just like a pause as opposed to an end. I guess that's what Bye for Now really means after all.
Yeah, for sure.
My
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say my only note about this was in relation to the soundbite that opens the song up, where she says, she says, "John, would you stop worrying about the punks? They're just a bunch of kids with growing pangs, and they'll probably be doctors and lawyers someday." And I just wrote, I did become a doctor, sort of. So,
It's true. It's true.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think it's definitely a real trouble. But I think the people that are really your friends are the people that you can just pick back up once you see each other again.
Definitely, yeah. Well, that'll do it for side 2.
Yeah, we're done with side 2 and move on to our rival records segment. Let's see here. Now that we've shared our opinions on the entire album, let's expand our conversation a bit, go outside of Fat Wreck by bringing in some other albums that come out around the same time as Trash, just to provide a bit more context within the punk music scene at the time. And this is a segment that we are calling Rival Records, where we compare and contrast this week's record with some of its peers. Alex, what record did you pick?
I am bringing RKL's Riches to Rags. This is released through Epitaph, and this is a band that, if you are somehow listening to us right now and you don't know who they are, I mean, it's likely that anybody that would listen to this podcast would probably know who this band is. But RKL has been around since the 80s, and this was their last album. Man, whew. Reading that wiki entry about all the shit this band went through is fucking roller coaster, man. Any band that like RKL is Rich Kids on LSD. Any band with that name, you might expect they had drug problems, but a lot of this record is about drugs, and it's I mean, it's really good. Like these guys were so influential in at least the California scene, because they're all about speed. And you've got both Fat Mike and Joey Cape talking about how, like, without RKL, maybe these, No Effects and Lagwagon don't exist at all. Which is what Joey Cape said. Yeah, so I've got a quote here from a interview. I think this was in 2019 around, I think Joey was doing interviews before the release of Hang. Or I guess, oh, wait, that would have been earlier, because I think, yeah. So whenever Hang came out, it was like 2014 probably. But he had an interview with musicfeats.com, and he, quote, "In many ways, I don't think there would be a No Effects or Lagwagon or many bands that sound like us if there hadn't been an RKL. They had this style of music that would just rip the whole time." And I mean, if you go back to Rock and Roll Nightmare in '87, fuck, that record is just like, it's just full speed ahead, going so fucking fast. And Fat Mike was saying that, like, they would listen to Rock and Roll Nightmare and be like, well, shit, I can't do that. None of us can. Like, they just couldn't do what RKL was doing in terms of like the speed and technical precision. So I mean, it's impressive, and really, like, I think Riches to Rags for me is probably their best record. And it's just because, like, Rock and Roll Nightmare is just like, it's so fast. Like, it's definitely like melodic hardcore, but there's not like a ton of the melody that you kind of get here. But this record really, it sounds so much like Lagwagon, and like, it makes sense. They shared members at different times. Like, they're definitely like from the same area, so it makes sense that the Lagwagon probably like grew up going to RKL shows and being friends with these guys. One of my takeaways from this record is also, these dudes really fucking hate hippies, man.
I mean, isn't that like a trope for fat records in general? Hating hippies.
I think it was just the punk scene.
Yeah, well, yeah, that too. But yeah,
Yeah, like, but in that documentary, there's there's a really funny quote from Lars Fredriksson where somebody mentions hippies, he says something about hippies, and he's like, and if you're a hippie, you should just fucking kill yourself anyway. So I think hippies were like universally despised at the time. I don't really know enough about hippie culture, to be honest with you. It seems like there's like a lot of hatred for them, because
they're living on the West Coast. They're pretty like, dense there, right? There's quite a bit of them, and I gotta say, when I lived on the West Coast, they were pretty terrible. Like, there are worse people to live surrounded by, but the hippies are they do kind of fucking suck.
I mean, I could definitely see that. I just wonder, like, what the 90s iteration of the hippie, like, or the 80s 90s iteration of the hippie must have been absolutely insufferable in some way. But
hacky sacks.
I can't really I can't really speak to it necessarily.
Fish concerts.
Yeah.
I thought this record fucking ruled.
Great.
I think so one of the tracks stuck out to me was the song Betrayed.
That's the best song.
Well, do you know why it stuck out to me? Is that it reminded me a lot of the band Trial by Fire.
Oh yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
So I liked that one quite a bit. I think my favorite one was In Your Mind, though.
I do like the lyrics on that one.
Yeah. So those were probably to me the ones that really stuck with me the most.
Yeah, I also thought it was interesting how there's a lot of like talk on this record about being positive and how like if you just think positively, life will be okay. Um, and then there's also a lot of lyrics about like betrayal and hatred. I'm just like,
Yeah.
this those two things definitely seem to like work against each other, but that's totally cool. Um, I don't know. I especially on In Your Mind, like I appreciate the sentiment. I don't know that I totally agree with what he's saying here. So, quote, "Don't look so hard, it's easy to find. Life's what you make it, it's all in your mind. You can't fight depression, it's not a disease. If you say your life sucks, then it will suck indeed. Be happy or sad or whatever you choose, and I know I can win. I'm not destined to lose." And it's just like the comment about depression that I'm kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah. That part. I mean, people were pretty fucking stupid about depression in the '90s
Right.
and
It's just
earlier.
not
So,
a full
um,
understanding of what that is and how that works.
um,
But
but to a degree, I think he's correct. I mean, it may be all in your mind,
right.
but at a certain point, it's really hard to dig yourself out of the shit.
Yeah.
When it's bad enough.
Yeah.
But again, like people just had dumb ideas about that for a really long time.
Yeah.
All
It,
right.
so I liked that they had like a bunch of lyrics that were all about like, let's be positive. But then they were
Yeah.
also fucking pissed. I think Betrayed is actually it's probably like I was looking, just like reading about the band. Betrayed, they they before Epitaph, most of their catalog was released through, I think, Mystic was the first
Mystic.
one, and
Yeah.
then what the other one was. But in both cases, they kind of got fucked over, especially with Mystic. So I think Betrayed is definitely airing some grievances there with just their bad luck with record labels.
It sounds like Mystic was not great, right? Like the whole reason Fat Wreck exists was because NoFX put something out on Mystic and then wanted to re-release it themselves, right?
Oh, oh
Like
shit.
that PMRC Can Suck on This EP was originally a Mystic release.
Mm, okay. Yeah. All right. That's starting to make sense to me then. Yeah, because like, especially with Mystic, they RKL was fucking pissed off, as they should be, because they basically the guy running the label, he's fucking around on him. Like he was just like telling him that he did things that he didn't do, like when it comes to like promotion, and then obviously like them they didn't see much of anything from any kind of record sales or any of that. Um,
Oh, well,
so
it's interesting that they would then go on to put out a record on Epitaph, considering that Epitaph recently bought a record label that was notorious for that shit too, with Jade Tree.
Oh, shit. I didn't know that Jade Tree was I'd always heard that Jade Tree had been poor when it comes to promotion. I didn't know that they had been called out for like taking money.
Oh, I don't know about that. I just meant
Oh, okay.
shitty about promotion. Yeah, I don't
Oh
know if
yeah.
they were.
Oh
They
yeah. Yeah. I
probably
mean,
weren't pocketing money or anything. I just, I
right.
know that like every band just complained about how awful Jade Tree was at promoting their bands. Um,
Yeah. I mean, it must be tough. Like I mean Jade Tree was probably another one of those labels that was run out of somebody's garage for a long time.
mm.
But yeah,
All right.
Richest Rags. Great fucking record. The whole way through. Not a bad track in the bunch. And if you like Lagwagon, especially if you like Trashed, this is you're gonna listen to this and be like, wow, these records are like brothers essentially. They go together real well. Ben,
All right. Yeah.
what are you bringing for Rival Records?
Well, I am bringing a record that maybe doesn't fully sonically fit here. Um, but I really wanted to talk about this record. There was no other relevant release from '94 to talk about it with. So we're going to talk about Jawbreaker's 24-Hour Revenge Therapy. One of the main reasons I'm picking this is that Jawbreaker was a pretty big influence on Lagwagon, in particular Joey Cape's songwriting. I believe he's gone on the record places saying that like that was where a lot of his, and I think particularly the songwriting style he's most known for comes from. And then they even have a song that has like an entire verse dedicated to Jawbreaker on a later album.
Yeah.
Plus, they cover Want in 4, 5, however many years in the future, and they also have a song called "Bad Scene," which really felt like it was, in some respects, an homage to the Jawbreaker song "Bad Scene." Everybody's Fault. So, like I mentioned earlier, in particular, I think the song "Know It All" and the song "Boxcar" are very, very similar songs that you could put side by side. How do you feel about that?
Absolutely. We've talked about this many times. This is, I guess, might as well just say it, for, as far as like punk music goes, like this is one of, between you and me, like one of like the absolute top tier. This is like top 5 at
Yes, it's
least.
probably this is. I don't know if I would say it. I feel weird saying anything is my favorite record
I know.
singularly,
I
but
know.
like, it's definitely top 5. I
Yeah.
fucking love this record. Yeah.
This is, I mean, this is one of the best records that you could ever listen to, honestly. Everything about it is just, it's so good. Like, it's not just the music. Like, I think for me, this might be Blake Schwarzenbach at his best lyrically.
Mhm.
Um, it's just so fucking great. And we could. I wanted to talk about this one last because we can. Let's talk about it. Like, this is our chance to like really dig into it and talk about this record. Um, but yeah, going back to what you were saying about like Boxcar and Know It All. Boxcar is the better version of Know It All. Uh,
Yeah.
it's like lyrically, it is like way better. It's way more interesting. Um, it's funny just when you think about how he's calling people out. The references, like the 1, 2, 3, 4, is sort of like a callback to the way that Ramones would start
Yeah.
songs.
Yeah.
Um, and he's just calling out the punk scene for being a bunch of fucking elitists. Um, and it I don't know this for sure, but like this could definitely be leveled specifically at Gilman. Because there were a lot of like kids that just they wanted there to be rules. And it's just so ridiculous because the fact that there could be elitism in a subculture that's against elitism is just silly. Um, punk music was all about saying fuck the rules, and then suddenly you've got people saying it's like, oh, there are rules to how to be punk, and it's fucking ridiculous.
So, have you watched the Jawbreaker documentary?
No, I still haven't gotten to that one.
The tension between, I believe it's Blake and Chris's tension with Adam, um, also kind of reflects what he's singing about in Boxcar, because um, like from what it sounds, Adam was the one that was just vehemently opposed to them like going to a major label, if I recall correctly from the documentary, and like there's still bad blood over that between all of them.
Oh,
Uh,
I thought those tensions were with Chris. Was it Chris? The
Maybe it
bassist?
is Chris. I thought it
Yeah.
was.
No, because Adam's the drummer, and he's the one that's like
Oh, you're right. You're right.
he's
I
got
was
Black
looking.
Ball Records, and
Yeah,
he
I was looking at
re-released.
small. I was looking at small pictures of them and trying to
Mhm.
remember who's who.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah. It's Chris, and that like it's kind of weird because like he's the one like wanting to keep him quote unquote punk.
right.
Um,
Yeah, I think Blake and Chris got into like fist fights and stuff like that. And that's the band broke up because of a lot of those tensions. Um, yeah, it is interesting when bands do like they write songs about other people in their band.
oh yeah, I like it. I like it a lot actually. So the the one thing I've found with this record is that as time has gone on, my favorite song in this record has just bounced around like all the time.
Yeah.
I like I remember initially Condition Oakland was my favorite song. I think at the moment it might be Outpatient or West Bay Invitational. Like pretty much every song on this record has at some point, except for like maybe Boxcar and maybe Insaning Around, has been like my favorite song on the record. But like all the other songs are like, this song's fucking great. I can listen to this over and over again.
Yeah. It's hard for me to even say what my favorite is. I do love Boxcar, you know. I know it's like sort of like the hit, it's the catchy one. But it is really good. I don't know. Boat Dreams from the Hill for me is absolutely, it's like an all-time favorite song. I love the lyrics. Particularly the verse or the part that he says, "Boat remembers the carpenter's sure hand, missing fishy flutter on its rudder, sold at auction on a dolly ever since. Sometimes rainy days drop boyish wonder." It's such like such great lyrics. A lot of like Blake's really good with the imagery. Um, you know, it's and it's a song that I can just relate to so well. When you talk about it's the classic case of a person that's sort of like deferring their dreams, or like you know, maybe they like have sort of like broken dreams and they're trying to recover from it. And it's just about a boat thinking about, oh, one day I'm going to go back out there and get back out on the water, but it's for now I'm just kind of like up on this hill wishing I could go do the thing I want to do. But yeah, I really love that.
For sure. Anything else you want to say about the record? Trying to think what more we could say.
I mean, I'm curious as to what you think about. How do you feel about Condition Oakland? And like, I just think that this was the one where when lyrically you read it and you maybe just don't know entirely what he's driving at. And
I know the reason that was like one of my first like favorite songs off the record was, at least to me, you know, it's just about struggling to connect with other human beings and just feeling isolated.
yeah.
Is just what he's talking about there. I like that they employ like a early 90s emo pastime of like playing somebody reciting poetry and like some like jazz playing in the background towards the end of the song.
Well, it's actually Kerouac.
Yeah, yeah.
Goes back to Boxcar. It's I just found it interesting, the sort of the sort of how he's relating, like how does the Kerouac reading that section of the poem relate to the rest of the song. And I never for a long time I didn't even bother to try and look into it, but like once I did, I thought it was really cool. It's because it's almost like when Blake is talking about like going down to the tracks and like, you know, looking at not like finding anything. It's almost like he was like looking for inspiration or like searching for a feeling that matches his feelings at the time. So he's obviously very depressed, and not able to connect to somebody. And
Yeah. I almost wonder if he's trying to describe a particular type of loneliness that he thinks is unique to Oakland itself as well.
yeah,
Because
Kerouac. So in that poem, Kerouac's sort of like talking about like sort of the wonder of San Francisco, right? And then you've got Blake at the beginning, sort of like almost like he's trying to search for that wonder and he can't find it. He's like looking for inspiration almost. You know, he says, "Put my ear to the door. I just heard hot rods and gunshots and sirens." And you know, maybe that's disappointing to him because in Kerouac's poem, he describes the city's sounds as the fantastic drowse and drum hum of Lum. it's like the magic of the city that Kerouac expressed in his poem is gone, and it's been left to decay, and the condition of Oakland reflects how Blake is feeling. I just was really like, to me, like, if that is the case, really nicely done.
Yeah. We're going to talk about lyrics a bit. I actually think this record has, I think, one of my favorite Jawbreaker love songs as well, with the song Jinx Removing. Have you ever paid much attention to the lyrics to that one?
Oh yeah, yeah. What's your favorite lyric from Jinx Removing?
It's pretty much the whole fucking thing.
Yeah,
Like he's talking about all sorts of like, you know, hexes and stuff like that, and he's relating it to just feeling like you're fucking jinxed with love as it is, right? Like you're always gonna fuck it up. You're always gonna get it wrong. And then, you know, it to the point where like there's someone that you're saying you love more than anybody you ever loved, but like they're 20 blocks away. Like you can't get out the fucking door to go see him and talk to him because you're just so haunted by shit that's been going on your whole fucking life.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I totally get that. I think one of my favorites is Ache.
It's a good one.
Because I just love that first verse. I believe in desperate acts, the kind that make you look stupid, look like a fool. Just keep reinventing myself. It's move or die. I change my form. These days, the people I love are spread so far apart, all out of reach. It's a thin sheet across the face. Cover me now. You know, it's the ache of remaking yourself after every dead relationship because, like, you're somehow someone different within the context of each one that you're in, whether that's friendship or romantic. And I always really love that about the song. It's a real heartbreaker.
Yeah, yeah. It's what they do really well.
It really is. I would say that like so much of the record is just about loneliness and isolation and then desperation. And it carries that sort of unsettling tone of dread in so many of the songs. And I think that might be what makes it so great. Like it's the quality of the record that you can't copy and no one has. No, because you can't.
Yeah.
Like, and Steve Albini just like brought it all out in the best way possible here. With the production of it. It's a perfect sounding record because of the feeling that it gives you.
Yeah, yeah. And you can tell they're starting to move in the direction of what they're gonna sound like on Dear You. Really this band sounds like a completely different band on every fucking record, which I 100% appreciate. Like Unfun is just like a fast, snotty punk record. Bivouac's just this heavy ass post hardcore record. This I don't like a pop punk emo record, and then I don't like, you know, Dear You is almost just like a straight like heavy alt rock record. They just kind of like are, you know, shifting from record to record in very interesting ways.
Yeah, I think it speaks to like how ambitious they were. Because you know, they formed in LA and then I guess they went their separate ways for a short while in New York, and then they all decided to move to San Francisco and give the band like a real go because they were popular there. Sort of like relocating to do Bivouac and sort of give the band like a real go. So I think they really did have those ambitions, and that's why you see these songs about like, you know, tour song and boxcar speaking to the scene because they I think they wanted more for sure. At least some of them did. I mean, maybe not Chris, but I think Adam and Blake probably did. Definitely Blake. Blake wanted more.
Yeah, yeah.
And they got punished for it, really. Because, you know, 94 was the year punk broke. They're like, they went on tour with Nirvana, and people started worrying, oh god, are they going to sign to a major label now? And then they did. They signed to the same label, which was it like CDC at the time, but like it's Geffen. And they just never recovered from it because of the scene and because of the tensions in the band. But
I think they probably could have, wouldn't have cared as much about the people calling them sellouts and shit if there wasn't the tension in the band over it as well.
yeah, I think it's everything. Not just one thing specifically, but in doing some reading about people talking about what it was like to go to a Jawbreaker show around the time of Dear You, it was like bizarre, like really strange behavior from the fans, because like they would play a new song and people in the front area, like right up at the stage, would like turn their backs and sit down, just like as like a protest of fuck you, how dare you change. It's like it's fucking ridiculous, honestly.
I mean, hats off to them for buying a ticket to go do that. That's a fucking great level of spite.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just silly, and man, no matter what your thoughts on Dear You are, that band didn't deserve that. That band deserved to keep going. It's a real shame that I would have really liked to have seen what they would have done next. I think they still would have been really, really great. It would have been different though, because Dear You is pretty different compared to this. It's very different.
As somebody for whom Jets to Brazil has not held up as well, and somebody who thinks like the first Forgetters EP was awesome, but then the LP kind of sucked.
Oh yeah, it's not good.
I'm not so sure that that it's a guarantee that the record after Dear You would be any good.
Maybe.
Just, I guess it would have been cool to see, but at the same time, like I do not think Jets to Brazil has held up very well for me at all. Like some of the songs are still good, but a lot of it's just not for me.
Honestly, I haven't revisited it in a very long time. There's nothing necessarily calling me back to that band at the moment. It'd be, I think it's worth going back and checking it out again to see how I feel about it. But I think about those songs that are on the live record.
Okay, yeah.
Gemini and Foresme. Really like those songs. So I think it would have been cool to see where they would have gone with those songs. Because they were good songs. I like them a lot. I don't know. And then like, every band has different influences. You got different band members that are pulling from different places. So I just think changing bands in general is going to change what you are.
Yeah.
So I think Jawbreaker could have they probably had at least one more really good record in them. As long as you were into Dear You, right? Like there was a clear progression. And I think that where they were headed, the trajectory was promising. It's such a bummer that they didn't do another one, but ultimately, I don't think they ever would have topped this one. There's just no way.
No. Yeah, I agree. All right, so want to wrap this thing up then?
Let's do it. Any final thoughts on Trashed?
Yeah, it's a good record that you should probably listen to if you haven't. At least give it one listen. Yeah, what about you?
It's really good. For me, it is like a serious step up from Duh. I just think it's way tighter. It's way more focused. It still has like its sort of problems with songs that maybe didn't need to be there, and then the covers, which I just didn't need. I think it's pretty clear what our favorite tracks were. It was Island of Shame. Know It All is definitely like that's the consensus is that's the best track.
Coffee and Cigarettes.
Coffee and Cigarettes is definitely a standout. And then when it comes to trimming the fat, we can definitely agree that the cover needs to go. The parody we don't need, even though it's a bonus track. I think you could have cut No One.
I would say give it back, but yeah, there's probably at least one more song to cut here.
I would have, honestly, you could cut Going South.
Yeah,
I like Give It Back. And there wasn't anything here that I didn't enjoy, though.
Other than the parody song, but like
the parody song is the
parody
one, I guess.
Yeah.
I kind of don't. I'm gonna give him a pass on that just because it's the bonus track, and it was clearly they could probably see like, okay, this is just maybe a little too much, so let's just throw it at the very end there. But that one aside, there's nothing here that I'm like, oh god, please, never again.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. If you have any questions, comments, or most importantly, corrections on anything we might have gotten wrong, please email us at ontherecord@gmail.com so we can set the record straight in a future episode. We're going to be back in 2 weeks to talk about the debut LP from Strung Out, Another Day in Paradise.